So the program of today is going to be separated in 3 points. We will start talking about oxidation management. When we're talking about aging, we really have to consider how to manage oxidation and how to limit oxidation to prevent premature aging. The second point is going to be microbial stabilization, which is really essential to have a good aging. You really don't want to have any contamination in terms of microbes, and there is different way to stabilize your wine regarding microbes for aging. So we'll talk about this. And the last point is to talk about wine adjustments. So aging is also a very good time to start fixing some parameters that are not good in wine, such as bitterness or astringency. Or also just building up the wine to give a little bit more potential for aging and more resistance to aging. So we'll talk about this. So let's start with oxidation management. So there is different way to protect and stabilize your wine. Of course, the first one is to limit dissolved oxygen. If we limit the contact with oxygen, we prevent a big part of the oxidation. So this means when you do any pumping, any transfer, make sure you are using the right pump, make sure your hoses are well tight, make sure you sparge with nitrogen. But also this means when you are in a tank, make sure that the tank is full or topped and the barrels too. Okay, and use always enough gas when you do any movement. Then you can use antioxidants such as SO2, Vinitan Advance, which is our grape tannins. So tannins are used as antioxidants. They are actually great antioxidants. And grape tannins are doing a very good role on this. So Vinitan Advance is our grape tannin, great as an antioxidant and also great as a tool to build up the mouthfeel. We'll talk about it later, but to really compensate a low tannin years. And aging on fine lees is also a way to have an antioxidant protection. Lees can consume oxygen, and they are great as protecting the wine from oxidation. You can increase the wine oxidation resistance. That's gonna be with products such as Aroma Protect, which is basically yeast derivates rich in glutathione. So glutathione is a natural antioxidant from the wine. It is part of the oxidation resistance pool of the wine, and this builds oxidation resistance. You can add glutathione to the wine through yeast derivatives. You can stabilize redox potential. This way, you really are stabilizing your wine towards oxidation or reduction, which is the best way for aging. You really make your wine in a stable zone, and the wine then can age by itself how it should be. For this, we use oak tannins, such as Tannessence Volume. The glutathione will be part of it as well, but oak tannins are the best tannins we can have to really help stabilizing the redox potential, making sure the wine doesn't get oxidized too fast or doesn't get reduced too fast too. And then there is another way, which is often used for whites and rosé, which is to remove precursors of oxidation. So in this case, we're talking fining. So doing some fining with PVPP or with casein or pea protein, also yeast derivatives, will really help removing the small phenolic compounds, which are precursors of oxidation. In red wines, we don't necessarily focus on this unless the wine is already oxidized, and we do need to remove oxidized compounds plus prevent more oxidation. In whites and rosé, it's a very useful tool that you can do in juice, fermentation, but also during aging. That's helping the wine profile, but it's also helping the stability of the wine. I want to talk a little bit more about increasing the wine oxidation resistance with the help of glutathione. That's a little bit newer concept, so I want to show you some results. So here we are talking about using Aroma Protect. Aroma Protect is a yeast derivative rich in glutathione or sulfur peptides. We use it towards the end of fermentation, 10 to 30 grams per hectoliters. And it's just gonna give you glutathione. So it increases the pool of glutathione in your wine, which increase the natural antioxidant resistance of the wine. This will allow you to elongate the shelf life and to just protect your wine from oxidation without having to add sulfur. It also helps you to maintain your free sulfur level without having to go too many times to the wine and adjust it. So here are some trial results. These are in white wine, in Sauvignon Blanc, actually. So we are looking at thiolic compounds. You are seeing here where the mouse is, the wine pre-aging, so just end of fermentation. We are in October here, and the control and the wine with aroma protect are the same. 3 months after, here we are in January, the control, this was aging tank, the control lost 76 to 100% of its thiolic compounds, while the wine with aroma protect lost only 0 to 4%. So we had a huge resistance or protection of the wine by using aroma protect. The second graph here is another wine, and it's 6 months after fermentation. And here we are looking at the loss of compound. And as you can see, the control lost about from 55 to 75% of its compounds, while the wine with aroma protect lost only 20 to 30% of its thiol. So this is really to show you that it's actually a long-term protection. We're talking 3 or 6 months, but it's a really good tool to protect your wine from oxidation during aging. You can use it just after fermentation on whites, on rosé, on red. It works great. It's also a good tool to use if you have to store wine in a tank for a long time, or if you bottle the same wine but at different dates, use it to maintain your tank wine fresh. So when you bottle it, it's as fresh as it would be in the bottle. So great tool to use during aging. The second one regarding oxidation is to talk about buffering redox potential and scavenging oxygen radicals. So this is talking about octannins. I wanted to show you a graph here where it's a study where we looked at the oxygen consumption rate. So how fast oxygen is consumed with different tannins. And as you can see, the tannin that consume the fastest is, or the family of tannin that consumes the fastest, the oxygen is the oak. So this gives us the answer that oak tannins are the most reactive with oxygen radicals, and they are really the best at scavenging oxygen radicals, which means the best at protecting wine from oxidation. We also know that oak tannins are the best buffer for redox potential to stabilize the redox potential and make sure the wine is strong enough and stable enough to not fall into oxidation or not fall into reduction. So knowing this, we did our own trial at La Motabier with our tannins. We got the same result, that our 2 oak tannins are the best in consuming oxygen radicals. As you can see here, they are the fastest oxygen consumption rate. Comes after a proanthocyanidin tannin, and then grape skin tannin, and then gallic tannin. In our 2 oak tannins, we are actually recommending to use TannEssence volume, which is untoasted oak tannins. It's not the fastest in terms of oxygen consumption rate, but it is the best in terms of mouthfeel. So the TannEssence volume is not going to impact your mouthfeel at low rate. And if it does, it just gives you a little bit of roundness and fills the meat palate. So you don't get any astringency or tannic structure with TannEssence volume. So that's why we recommend to use this tannin, and we recommend to use it from 0.5 to 1 gram per hectoliters at any transfer, movement, racking you do with the wine. This is really gonna help you scavenge your oxygen radical, build your redox potential stability, and have your wine stable through time. So 2 tools that are very useful here For aging, Aroma Protect with glutathione and Tanessence Volume, which is untoasted oak tannin, that will help you stabilize your wine towards oxidation and avoid or just complement sulfur addition, but also allows you to not add too much sulfur and not have to come back every month and adjust your sulfur. Now, talking about microbial contamination during aging. This is a very important topic, and actually I could do a full webinar on this, which I did before, but today I really want to give you the key information for aging, so I wanted to talk about everything. So microbial contamination can be a disaster. It can be, it's usually irreversible, and it has rapid deviation in the wine, which makes the wine undrinkable or lost sometimes. So we have to be careful. There is microbes at risk at this stage of aging, which are acetobacter, acetic acids, bacteria, lactobacillus, pediococcus, which are lactic acid bacteria. Enococcus can be considered as spoilage as well if you didn't do malolactic fermentation, and then Brettanomyces. These microbes, when they are put in favorable conditions, such as in presence of growth promoter, like sugar, malic acid, citric acid, some assimilable nitrogen, which are available when you age on lees, but also oxygen and higher temperature, they grow very well and they spoil the wine. So they will produce acetic acid, acetaldehydes, ethyl acetate, volatile phenols, and then we end up with bread taint or lactic taint and biogenic amines. So you can see that oxidation and microbe contamination are related because microbes like to be in a higher redox potential situation, and they love oxygen, at least these microbes, especially Acetobacter. So if you control well oxidation, it helps you controlling microbial contamination too. So we don't want this to happen in our wine. So how can we do this? We want to use antimicrobial agents. Sulfur is one of them, but only molecular sulfur is active as an antimicrobial agent. Molecular sulfur depends on your free sulfur and your pH. And if we're talking about high pH, so higher than 3.6, we start to have difficulties to control microbe with only sulfur, as we would need free sulfur above 60, which start to be too high and has other consequences such as bleaching the wine, closing the nose, making the mouth feel very hard. So sulfur is a tool, but it's not the only one, and it's not necessarily the best one to control microbes during aging. We have an entire webinar done for aging without sulfur, so I highly advise you to go and check it out. Then we can use lysozyme. Lysozyme is has its pros and cons. So lysozyme is very efficient against lactic acid bacteria, so Enococcus, Pediococcus, Lactobacillus. Not much against the other bacteria such as Acetobacter, but also not much against yeast. So it's really focusing on bacteria, lactic acid bacteria. Lysozyme is protein extracted from egg whites, so it is an allergen. And as a protein, it's also reacting with color in red wine, so it will make your color drop a little bit. And you will need to use protein on whites and bentonite on whites and rosé to stabilize for protein. So great, but comes with its inconvenience. Then you have chitosan. Chitosan is the newest antimicrobial agent on the market. It's still a good, now almost 10 years it's existing, so it's not so new anymore. But chitosan is coming from an Aspergillus niger fungus, so it is vegan, it is allergen-free. It is a polysaccharide that will not stain in the wine, so it's actually a fining agent, and it has a wide spectrum of antimicrobial effect. So it will connect and kill or eliminate Brettanomyces, Acetobacter, Lactobacillus, Pediococcus, Enococcus. So every microbes we want to take care of. So chitosan, I'm going to focus a little bit more on this because it is really the antimicrobial agent that is the most useful, from my opinion, during aging and in winemaking. Then you have DMDC or Velcorin. This is used on sweet wine, just pre-bottling, and it's very efficient against yeast. So if you don't want to have Brettanomyces contamination, or if you don't want to have a second fermentation happening in the bottle, you can use Velcorin at bottling. You do need a special machine and a special person that comes and does a service for you to treat your wine. Sorbate is another option to use to prevent re-fermentation in sweet wine, for example. So you can use sorbate at bottling. Just be careful with the presence of bacteria, because sorbates and bacteria can create a geranium taint. So if you want to use sorbate, make sure you don't have any bacteria in your wine. Okay, so let's focus a little bit more on chitosan, as it is really the most useful antimicrobial agent here. So it is derived from Aspergillus niger, so it's vegan, allergen-free, biodegradable, and it's a fining agent, so it doesn't stain the wine. It has a wide spectrum antimicrobial activities, and I'm going to tell you how it works. So first, there is a charge attraction from the positive charge on the chitosan and the negative residual charge on the microbial cells. They get attracted together, and as you can see in the microscopic picture here, it just gets stick as magnet. Second, the chitosan is going to alter the cell metabolism because it's just going to cover the cell, just like a big hug, and so the cell can't communicate with outside. So the cell just can't feed themselves, they can't do anything, and so there is no more metabolism. The second part of this big hug is actually the perforation of the cytoplasmic membrane and leading to a leakage of the cell. So you can see in the second picture that I show you here, before treatment, the cell is full and completely active, and 5 minutes after the addition of chitosan, the cell is not full anymore and it starts to leak, just because the membrane has been altered. In the last picture here, about microscopic picture, you have the first picture is a wine without chitosan. Second is the addition of 1 day after the addition of chitosan, you can see the Brettanomyces cells are starting to leak. 4 days after the addition of chitosan, there is no more membrane, as you can see, and the cells are completely leaking. 8 days after the addition of chitosan, there is no more cells. The full integral cells is disintegrated. So chitosan is very efficient at stopping the metabolism of the microbial microbes. And then it's like a death hug, basically. It's just taking the cell, stopping the metabolism, perforating the membrane, and dropping them in the lees. So when you do a strong treatment, you do a racking and you eliminate all the microbes. So let me tell you a little bit more about our chitosan, which is called Kilbret. It's 100% chitosan. We choose to make a full pure formulation to have an efficient treatment at low dosage, so we don't have any impact on the organoleptic profile of the wine. It is TTB approved for domestic and export. That's a very important information as well. That is newer this year. So in terms of dosage, when we use it as a preventive action, we are going to recommend to use 4 grams per hectoliters. That's going to be enough. So preventive means post-fermentation, you don't have a contamination, you are fine with your wine, you just want to make sure you will not have one. So you're going to add chitosan or Kilbret here as just a preventive effect to make sure if there is any cells, they will not survive and they will not develop. So we recommend to do this every 4 months because the Kilbret will be active for about 4 months during aging. Okay, so this way you really prevent any further contamination. without having to do any racking or without having to do anything. Basically, you just add your kilbret in your barrel, you stir, and you let it just there. If you do have a contamination, we're talking a barrel that has a high population of Brettanomyces, for example, or Acetobacter, we are going to go with 8 grams per hectoliter treatment. You're going to rack the lees about 8 to 10 days after. And then once you rack it, you will add 2 grams per hectoliter for more protection. And then you go on this 4 months with 4 grams per hectoliter treatment. Okay? So very small dosage really doesn't impact the organoleptic profile. Let me show you some results of trial we did where we put kilbret with no sulfur versus sulfur during aging. Okay, so here we are looking at the impact on the effect of kilbret on Brettanomyces cells. In blue, you have the amount of cells, and in purple dot, you have the 4EP, 4EG, which are the volatile phenol Brettanomyces produce and responsible of the bread taint. When so in our control, we have cells. If we do batonnage or stirring the lees, we increase the cell population and we increase the 4EP, 4EG production. We re-put in suspension the cells, they plus some nutrients, a little bit of oxygen, cells are happy, metabolism is active, they produce 4EP, 4EG. When we are with we add kilbret, there is no more cells in the wine. We add 4 grams per hectoliter of kilbret and we stir. We pick up some cells, but no production of 4EP, 4EG. So these cells that we pick up, or they are still alive but dying and not producing any, metabolism is not active, so not producing any volatile phenols. Or they are already dead, but it's just particles, pieces of cells where the DNA is not disintegrated yet. It takes few weeks at wine pH to disintegrate, so you can pick up some cells while they are not here and they are not alive. So that's why it was important to look at the 4EP, 4EG as well. So kilbret with no sulfur, you can see has a better impact on, better effect in controlling Brettanomyces metabolism and cell count than just sulfur. Then here we are looking at sulfur versus lactic acid bacteria. So sulfur, we are talking 30 milligrams per liter of free sulfur, which is very standard in an aging situation. This is on Pinot Noir. Wines trials made in Burgundy. We are looking at the population of lactic acid bacteria through aging. This is March, April, May, June. And you can see that using kilbret with no sulfur or just free sulfur has the same effect in just dropping the population of lactic acid bacteria. Here we are looking, same trial, same wine, we are looking at the acetic acid bacteria evolution. As very commonly, when spring comes here, we are talking April, May, June, it's warmer. So for some reason, there is more oxygen in the wine. The population of acetic acid bacteria are spiking up with sulfur or with kilbret. Then we are adding tan essence volume and aroma protect, which we talked about before, to scavenge oxygen radical and to lower redox potential and stabilize it. This will put the acetic acid bacteria in a very uncomfortable situation, which in fact, as you can see, is very good in stopping their action and metabolism. Very good, not enough when we do only sulfur, but completely enough to put them down with using just kilbret with no sulfur. So kilbret here with managing oxygen and redox potential has been better than sulfur in controlling acetic acid bacteria. So this trial, I wanted to show you also impact on other impacts, so on color. We looked here at the color intensity of the wine, and you can see that the wine has the best color intensity is with only kilbret and no sulfur. Then 0 sulfur is pretty good just because there is no bleaching. Then when we use sulfur, the color completely bleach and the color intensity drop through time. Here is the intensity of the color variation from January to it's actually until December here, so a full year, where with no sulfur, we lost 10%. With sulfur, we lost 25% of our color. With only Kilbreth, no sulfur, we lost 5%. So we had a better control on microbial contamination, and we didn't bleach color, so we actually end up with a better color. And if we look at the yellow and red hues, you can see that with 0 sulfur, yes, we didn't lose so much color, but we gain a lot of yellow. With sulfur, we gained some yellow and we lost a lot of red. With Kilbreth, we actually gain red. That's thanks to color stabilization with time. And we gain a little bit of yellow, but way less than the other. So it's really a useful tool, not only to control microbes, but also to actually help stabilizing color through time and but preventing oxidation of the color. In terms of tasting notes, the wine with no sulfur was having a great color, a little bit evolved, as we could see on the analysis. On the nose was volatile. It was fruity, but really some VA. And on the palate was really a rough finish, which was the VA, in fact. And the sulfur wine was having a way paler color. It was a lighter wine with more brown hue because the red color was not really here. The nose was very common, I would say, very standard, very clean, precise, fresh, not so much expressive, very closed. On the palate was fine, but a little bit harsh on the finish, and the oak was not integrated at all. On the wine with only Kilbreth, no sulfur, we had a beautiful color, very intense, very bright, and deep. The nose was floral and fruity, so this was on Pinot Noir. Very delicate, but also clean and fresh. So it was really Pinot Noir-like, but very expressive. The mouth was balanced, really straightforward with a mineral finish, and the oak was very integrated. We couldn't really notice the oak, actually. So again, it's an interesting tool as an aging tool for microbial control, but also this trial can show you that it could be very interesting to lower our sulfur and maybe use Kilbreth instead. We will gain in color stabilization, we gain in aromas, we gain in just wine expression and development in general. The last point I want to talk about today with you is about addressing mouthfeel challenges. So at this point, we are looking at challenges and how to actually fix the wine to age it better. So if you have any bitterness, astringency, or aggressivity, if it's very bad, we are going to think about fining. Fining with Green Fine Express, which is based off pea protein, Polymix Nature, that is based off PVPP, Nature Fine Prestige, that's a yeast derivative that is great in just cutting bitterness on the finish, and Casein Mix is casein, that's when it's very astringent. Okay, we can play with the addition of tannins. I know it sounds weird, a wine that is bitter, astringent, and aggressive. You think it's because there is too much tannins, but sometimes it's just that the tannins are not placed well. It's just that we feel a lot of tannins at the beginning, at the end, but nothing in the mid palate. So adding tannin to fill this mid palate and to build up mouthfeel is actually a really good way to balance the wine and keep the length of the wine, make it bigger and just fuller without having to remove any aggressivity from the back. The other approach that is very common is to use monoprotein done for aging. So it's like fake lees, basically. It's not fake, it's actually true lees that we selected, we purified, we make it in powder, and you have it available. So they are clean lees that are rich in monoprotein just to give you roundness, body. And so this will help you with the challenge of bitterness, astringency, aggressivity, and on the long run. So you can add it and age your wine on it. If you have some oxidation, you will need a fining to really remove the oxidized compounds, and then you can work on re-establishing the redox potential. If you lack of tannins, unbalanced mid palate or unbalanced finish, and the 2022's wines are completely falling in these categories. So it's actually a very interesting wines to work on, where we can work with the Vinitan Advance, which is a skin tannin I was talking about a little bit earlier when we talk about oxidation. This skin tannin is great to compensate wine that were having a lower tannin content. So the addition of tannin here will help you build potential for aging. So you just reestablish the mid palate, you reestablish the balance in terms of phenolic structure, so your wine can age better. And if you're lacking of volume, we're talking polysaccharide, which at this stage, Nature Soft is the best tool. So all these mouthfeel challenges, they can be addressed at the beginning of aging. That's usually better because then you have time to really build up your wine on a clean and good base. But it's something we can also do just pre-bottling. So don't hesitate to ask us samples. I just want to present very quickly our toolbox, or your toolbox. So in terms of grape tannins, if we want to work on improving aging potential, lift fruit character, but also keep the purity of the wine, we are talking Vinitan Advance. If we want volume, structure, and also just round mid palate, we are talking soft tan finition, which is a blend of tannin and polysaccharide. And if we are talking antioxidant, redox potential management, giving some structure, giving some tension, and giving some length to the wine, we are talking oak tannins here, and we have 4 of them, the origin, expression, volume, and forte. We also have polysaccharide, so let me present you the toolbox for the polysaccharide. We have Sublicens, which is a yeast manoprotein and Arabic gum. We have Manosense, which is a pure yeast manoprotein, and we have Excel gum, which is a pure Arabic gum. These 3 products can all give you sweetness, roundness, volume, length, but they also all reduce bitterness and astringency perception. We never really know which one is going to work on your wine, so that's why I say please ask us samples. You will do bench trials, so there is few ways. We are very happy to come to your winery and help you with tasting and setting up trials for you. You can send us wine. We will do the trial for you too and send you back the sample that we think you should try. But you can also ask us for your sample kits. We'll send them to you. They come like this picture in little bottles. Very easy. You put 1 drop in 50 mils. And this gives you 1 gram per hectoliter dosage. It takes the time to add the drop to swirl your glass, a minute, and you can see the effect of the product, which allow you to really try before you add it to your wine. Okay, so the toolbox for aging as a big summary here. We are talking about kill breaths for microbial spoilage prevention. Preventive or curative, but really Ketozan is your tool here for aging. Sulfur, we do have effervescent sulfur tablets if you're interested in using sulfur. Tannescence volume, this is the tannins to scavenge oxygen radical and buffer redox potential, 0.5 to 1 gram per hectoliters at every movement. And Aroma Protect, which is our yeast derivative rich in glutathione to really help enhances the antioxidant resistance of your wine. Thank you very much for your attention. You can find our product on the website. Email me if you have any questions. I will be happy to help you.